what makes me very unique in this is that I come from this as a student myself, a parent, and a person who is in these systems, not as the educator, but as the professional, building the systems within organizations to help the students and families identify those pathways.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Leadership Syllabus. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. The Leadership Syllabus podcast provides insights from leaders on the main leadership lesson they've learned from their work, life, and experiences and who they are as a person. Each 30-minute mod will capture a bit about who the guest is, their work, and one lesson they would contribute to the Leadership Syllabus. This collection of mods will offer you a one-series stop of real-world and life lessons to enhance your own self-understanding, awareness, and effectiveness in leadership and life. And today's mod is titled Communication is Currency, and today's contributor is Christina Lapierre. And through her translator's lens, Christina turns high-level educational jargon into community-facing programs that foster equity and self-advocacy. When it comes to strategic architecture, she designs frameworks that connect local community-based organizations, or CBOs, with the students who need them most. And when it comes to leadership, it's all about leadership with heart. So she's passionate about building, quote, the Readiness Bridge, ensuring that being college eligible actually means being college ready. Christina, thank you so much for coming for this conversation.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Christina, to start off, just in general, I mean, you don't hear this too often when it comes to professional development conversations, but how would you describe yourself? Aside from your roles, your work, your business, whatever it may be, how would you describe yourself? Who are you as a person?
Wow, that's a big one. I would say describing myself as a person, I like to think of myself as someone who is down to earth, who is approachable. But at the end of the day, it's about helping those that helped me. So I'm trying to pay it forward with the students and families through my work, through this consulting business, and doing that outreach to just really clarify the systems that we all work in, that kids go to school in, and helping that end user, which is the student, understand their entire journey. So it's a little bit about me, but it's a little bit about them. I'm trying to be their advocate, their voice, because many of them do not speak up and they don't know how to ask the question.
Yeah, it's incredible in so many conversations that I've had, whether for this podcast or the other series, the power of self-advocacy, that we don't advocate enough for ourselves. You and I were just talking before we hit record about imposter syndrome and how it may, as confident as we are in the work that we do, the value we provide, the impact that we make, we can still have that little bit of imposter syndrome. But it's incredible how we're not taught, and I'm glad you're doing this work, that self-advocacy from such a young age.
Yeah, like we said earlier, just myself, I had my own imposter syndrome, and going through my doctorate, I sat in that classroom surrounded by other administrators, other teachers, and here I was in my own mind justifying how did I even have a seat in that cohort, in that classroom, because I'm not a teacher, I'm not an administrator, but yet I brought the value that Central saw in me. And it was interesting because I almost had not a breakdown, but I started crying to my program director, and he was like, Christina, you're such a unique person that you bring a lens that nobody here in this room is bringing right now, because you're seeing what they don't see, because they're at the top and they're not seeing at the ground level. So it helped me understand that's right. Like, I do see it from a very different level, and it does get the best of us no matter who we are, what your background is, what your education is. We all question ourselves. Who are we and what do we bring to the table, and how can we provide a service or learn or what is it we're doing. So it's a very real thing, and it does pull at your heartstrings. And I have to say, going through that doctorate was probably one of the most intense programs I've ever gone through in my life. Did it in 3 years. So I'm very proud of the fact of what I did and what I came out with. And through that work, this is where I am today with this consulting work to help students understand all of their options available to them so that they have a clear understanding, they have the knowledge, and they have the skills to go, oh, that's what I want. Or no, that's not what I want, but I want to go over here into trade. So what does that mean? How do I access it? What are the questions I may want to ask? So it's really important for me because I've gone through it myself, but I think more importantly, helping these students through all of these systems, whether they're in 6th grade, 8th grade, high school, even in college, working with them, they still need clarity of understanding of their future. And that's what I'm trying to provide.
So that's perfect segue. So in your work, your new consultancy, what does that look like on the ground? What does that look like with the people you serve? What are the details? How do you work to get to that end goal that you just described in that day-to-day work with those you serve?
Right. So the work that I'm doing is very different. So I could be working with a school district. I could be working with an individual. I could be working with a student or a parent to help them understand what is their specific pathway or how do they get into college or what are the steps they need to take. I could be working with a community-based organization to help them understand measurable outcomes, things that are real and tangible. Through my work, through the grant over the last 7 years, that really helped me understand accountability and measurable outcomes. And that is something that while schools and organizations do that, but I don't know that they really do it while they're seeing the actual action on the ground take effect and how it's impacting those students or consumer, whoever it is you're serving through your organization or your program, design, whatever. It's really helping people to see the gaps, clarify the pathway, build a more structured and clear pathway towards a post-secondary success. So that doesn't mean it has to be a 4-year institution. I was very intentional, and I am very intentional in the work that I do with students and families and organizations is you have to give an individual a platter of choices, right? Look at it as you're buying a car. I may not want a blue car. Maybe I want a green car. Or what do I want here? Or maybe I want Apple CarPlay. So there's different pieces to the pathway. And it's so important when working with students and families. I've always said to the students that I work with, I will say, let's back up the bus. Tell me what you're interested in. What resonates with you? What do you get excited about? Right? And then let's try to look at different careers or roles or opportunities that fit into that, right? So if you love being outside, that's pretty broad, but let's bring it in a little bit. Do you enjoy cutting lawns or do you like gardening or what is it you like about being outside? And then kind of hone in on that area. Or they love computers. Great. What do you love about it? So it's really helping them frame what it is they like. And again, reminding them, and I think with all of us, you and I mean, I've been through many careers, different opportunities, and that's anybody, right? And it's a good thing because you want to continue to evolve as a human. You want to grow your skill sets, your experience, and that's how you increase your knowledge of what you're bringing to people and an organization and those that you're serving wherever you are. So it's really helping those kids understand the different pathways. So from a 4-year to a 2-year to a certificate to a trade, military, and in some case, students just want to enter the workforce. So what does that look like, right? Are you ready to go into an interview? Do you know what will be expected of you? do you know how to dress? So there's so many facets to this. It is just so much work that needs to be done. And there's a lot of people out there doing it. It's not just me, but I think what makes me very unique in this is that I come from this as a student myself, a parent, and a person who is in these systems, not as the educator, but as the professional, building the systems within organizations to help the students and families identify those pathways. But more importantly, I feel like I'm that unicorn, right? I can bring the different layers of information, talking to different stakeholders. I'm used to working in different agencies or bringing all of the different stakeholders together to understand this is what you're looking for. How do we build it? Well, this is how we can build it. But it's also about an organization or a CBO sustaining that without particular funding. You don't need a federal grant to run something. You need to be fiscally responsible, and you need to understand what's important to that organization, that school district, that college. What is it you really want to do? Do you want to move the needle on student success? Well, what does that mean to them? So I work with individuals and organizations to really help them identify, at the end of the day, what do you really want? What is important to you? What do you want to clarify? How do we rebuild a system that maybe you have that might be stuck? Maybe there's a barrier in place. What is that internal barrier? How do we remove it? And also helping the people within the structure understand their roles. Everybody's interconnected, but they don't see that, right? And often people are disconnected, so they work against each other instead of working with each other.
I love all that you just provided, just because it is that preparation, the consideration of resources, the support that you have. I've spoken to you across different professions that you've been in, different rooms that you've been in. I love that you see it from all the different angles. What stands out the most, and I don't know why the last couple of days I've thought about it, is the difference between telling somebody when they're going to college, hey, colleges want somebody that's well-rounded. And so the kid starts to collect different things, versus, hey, colleges want somebody that's well-rounded, and here's how that also benefits you. So it's not like you're just hitting a checklist of things that you need to do so others see it, but this is what you need to take away from each of these. This is what you need to look for, and this is a practice that you can carry for the rest of your life that will bring you value. So I love that you really have them consider what resonates with them. Chrstina, we'll get into the leadership side of your experience and your professions and everything that you've done to date. We'll get to that leadership lesson. But in general, what has your work to date taught you? What's a general lesson, the biggest thing it's taught you?
I think it honestly is being more confident in what I do and how I can prepare others for their future. That's really what I want to be able to leave behind is I have built the confidence in myself to get here as a woman and also as a first gen. I don't look like a typical first gen student. So when I tell a story to students that I'm working with, primarily in urban districts, they're like, ma'am, you don't look like us. I go, I don't, but I did have challenges in my youth and in my childhood. And you can't always judge a cover by its book. And I tell them that. And then when I tell them the story of my own life, my own personal things that I went through, they're like, wow, we would have never thought that. I said, exactly. So the confidence, and I had to self-advocate for myself throughout my entire career, throughout all of my education. I didn't have a cheerleader. I have had some great mentors in my life, and I still have two amazing mentors still in my life that we are now really amazing friends. But I think it's also important for individuals to find a person that can help them be their cheerleader if they don't have a parent or guardian in their household. I did have a wonderful parent, but there's only so much a parent can give you, right?
I think
and when you have that outside perspective, it's nice.
Yeah. I think when somebody says, hey, I had a great mentor that happened to not be my parents, it's nothing against the parents at all. I mean, my parents did everything they could, provided, a house full of love, the ideal situation. They were immigrants working multiple jobs, but they didn't have the white collar capacity that they wanted me to aspire
Hmm.
to. So obviously you have to supplement that home support if you have it with somebody else. So I mean, it's no dig at parents. It's just kind of it's beginning this lesson that we're talking about, looking at your resources and seeing what you need to work with and towards. Christina, when it comes for you then, now moving to the Ma title, communication is currency. What was it? Where does that come from? When did you realize the power of communication as currency? And then what made you pick that Ma title for this episode?
That came to me in the last 3 years, working through my doctorate, because everything that you do is about communication. How are you communicating your written context? How are you communicating the data that is going into your dissertation? So communication in general for all of us, whether it's written, verbal, body language, it's critical. And I think it takes time to refine how you're communicating, right? How I communicated in my 20s is very different than how I communicate now.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that comes from experience, that comes from just maturity. And it also comes from, you have to take time to reflect on your own self. And you have to look at, how did I actually maybe communicate in that email or communicate with that person? Well, how did it make me feel, or how did I make them feel? And I don't know that we as humans do enough of that to communicate and understand our communication methods, because we're living in a world where it's instant gratification, very limited communication. We see that across the board, right? It's a quick text. It's a quick transaction, right? Hey, how are you doing? I could be having the worst day of my life and you would never know, right?
Yeah.
Is that real communication? I don't think so. So that communication is currency came from my work in my dissertation, and understanding that it is so critical and important to communicate in a way that is clear, understandable, and is approachable. I know that I can be a very straightforward person. I can be very direct with my words, but I don't mean it in a way that can be difficult or rigid. It may come across that way. So when I understand how I communicate to people, I will know, like, okay, I need to be softer in my delivery of my message, or taking time to maybe not hit the send button on an email and take another day to really reflect on that and go,
Yeah.
I think it's too emotional, right? Let's take that out and maybe not send it and read, because we do get caught up in our emotions very often in communication. So it's really understanding who you are, and then taking accountability for that communication. That is something that many people don't do. And that's something that students have a very hard time with, right? It's taking accountability for what you said or what you posted, right? So you better be able to back it up with something. And with your doctorate, you have to have evidence of, I communicated this and this is what supports this. So I think that has really helped me frame how I approach my work, my communication, and it still continues to evolve to this day. I learn from others, like, I love how they're communicating that. That's great. I mean, I've begun to make a binder just on communication and methods and things, and it just is amazing.
Yeah.
And I just finished, because I love to learn. So I took 4 more classes at Central, all in communication and AI. And I thought it was amazing. Like, it just taught me so much more information. I'm like, this is really interesting information. So all good stuff.
Incredible. As a professional coach, as a coworker, as a business owner, all of those things, all those roles that I've had, it's incredible to see the importance of communication, and it can't be overstated. I love the fact that you keep learning it, that you have like this binder and you keep kind of collecting ideas and you're processing data that you see in the everyday. Because I think we get stuck in our own habits and just listening to conversations, reading emails. Like I don't get it perfect, but there are
Right.
instances where it's just like, man, why did they say it like that? Why did it have to take that tone? Especially when society today is less face to face and more texting, more email, more
Yeah.
chatting and things like that. So, Christina, you've mentioned some ideas when it comes to communication, using communication, learning communication, but what are some action steps that you would have somebody take and consider and keep in mind as they move through their career, their work, their relationships when it comes to communication?
I would say one, depending on where they work, where they are in their life, what they're looking for, how is it that they're being communicated to by the individuals in the organization or school that they're at? How do they feel when they're receiving that communication? Do they feel good? Do they feel bad? Like what's resonating or not resonating with them? And then on the flip side, as an individual, how are they communicating to the individuals in that organization or to the school or to a professor? Are you approaching it in a way that you are approachable, right? Or are you approaching it in a way that you're just very demanding or you just want X, So I think when you're approaching communication, it's understanding first what's the first sentence that is out of the gates to an email? Are you introducing yourself? Or, I think you have everything is situation. And a lot of this is understanding situational awareness of your emails, of your communication, because I don't think many people understand what that means and how that can either be bad or good based on what you're doing or who you are. And it just, you never want to burn a bridge and you don't want people to think differently or be like, oh, well, that person can't communicate or whatever. And, listen, even with all my degrees, I'll still have people read an email from me and go, how does this sound to you? What's the tone like? Here's what I'm trying to get across to
Yeah.
somebody. And, you know, and they're like, this sounds great. I mean, the other day I had emailed a parent about some information, right? And I went, great, like giving her all this information. And she literally emailed me back saying, well, that was really rude. So I was like, really? What did I write that was rude in there? So I sent it off to an individual and I said, did that sound rude to you? And he's like, no, you were pretty clear. Like you gave her the steps. He goes, no, like that great email. He's like, it was short, concise, and very clear on what she needed to do. So I was like, all right. Yeah. Sometimes I think people take communication the wrong way, because I put it in a
Yeah.
bullet point and
Yeah.
I was, I don't know. I'm not a fluffer, not a person. I'm very because I myself, just give me the bullets. What do I need
Yeah.
to do?
Yeah. I
That's
I
it.
don't want like the Odyssey paragraph after paragraph.
Yeah.
I'm very much, hey, so and so, here's the overall thought. Here's some things to consider. Let me know if you have. But it's incredible. Maybe it wasn't overly warm. Like it was just very get to the point, very information based. And if you have any questions, let me know. But it wasn't warm enough for that person. So it's
Right.
incredible. Even if you consider everything that you think on your side is the proper
Right.
way,
People,
you could take the same email, draft it in like a neutral voice, get 10 people to read it, and they'll probably take different things away.
10 different versions. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's where people maybe are in that moment, what they're doing. Maybe they're driving, they're reading, so everybody is doing so many different things and they're really not processing it. So when I deliver communication or an email or a conversation, especially a conversation, I will prepare myself beyond belief and just make sure I've got all that I need to know for any conversation or what may be asked of me, and even not asked of me. I try to have as many things in my toolkit so I can respond with clarity and have what they need.
Christina, another question, I guess. You don't have to name names, but who have been, very briefly, if you could, the best communicator as a leader and a poor communicator? Again, no names. You don't have to give names, but what are some examples of what the good communicator did versus the poor communicator as leaders you've had in your past?
That's a tough one. I think the really good communicators, what I found in those individuals, some of them were very much like me, very much to the point, like they set things up with bullet points, or their approach could have been very direct, which I appreciate very much. I don't mind directness. I don't find that offensive. I embrace it. Versus someone who may have been a difficult conversation or poor communicator, I think was a lot of, I don't know. I think what I find is people will go around a lot of questions and around the topic before they actually will ask something, and then they end up, and I'm like, what are you looking for? Because now I'm confused what the original ask is. So for me, when someone just can't come out and ask me a question or just email me something, I sometimes feel like they're looking for something other than that. So then that could be like, oh, I'm getting defensive. I don't know what they're looking for, so then you start communicating in a very different way. So you don't know what they're looking for or what their approach is. So for me, I have found that the folks that have been really good at communication is they'll take the time to just say, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I need, da-da-da-da. When can you get whatever, right? Yeah. And whatever, a few bullet points, a little overview, whatever, nothing. And it's a transactional conversation.
Okay. Christina, in wrapping up, is there anything you want to share about the work you're doing? Anything you want to put out there about what you're up to or might have coming up? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
You can certainly provide folks with my consulting website, would love to help folks. But I think, again, my passion lies with the students and families. It's really helping them with the clarity of information and building these systems and programs that is moving from, as I say, doing to designing better pathways, more access, more equity. And that could be anybody. It could be from a suburban to an urban. It doesn't matter who you are. Every system has their own issues internally. And it's just about providing that alignment of information at the end user, which is the students, because I know that these kids are not getting what they really need for information. So I'm trying to make that happen. I'm trying to make that impact little by little, and we'll get there.
I love it. Yeah, and I love how you infuse these little lessons that it's not just about lessons they can use to get into college, but it's lessons that they can build on as a solid foundation. So, Christina, thank you so much for sitting down for this conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And if there's anything I might have missed, please let me know. A lot to cover, limited to 30 minutes in this particular podcast, but I'll reach out to Christina and see what additional information, guidance, insight, anything at all I can get back from her. In the meantime, thank you for watching, listening, and subscribing, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.